Hello! So we're going to make some fermented vegetables. Why would you make fermented vegetables? Well, there are good reasons. One, sometimes vegetables are really cheap when they're in season, so it extends the life of them. You know, if there's a special offer on at the supermarket and you buy vegetables at a good price, you eat them, but they don't last very long. If you ferment some of them, it extends their life. The major reason as a naturopath that I'm talking to you about fermenting vegetables is that when you ferment them, they give you wonderful probiotics, wonderful lactic acid bacteria. And this is the good bacteria for your gut. It really helps supplement the good bacteria in your gut. If you've not been well or if you've taken antibiotics, then the bad bacteria have overrode the gut. But when you ferment, you get bacteria like Lactobacillus bifidus. It's a great way of supplementing the good bacteria in your gut. You can ferment any vegetables. If you ferment vegetables of high sugar, they tend to ferment and taste a bit bitter because the fermenting has also caused alcohol. So for this one, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to ferment a red cabbage and a red onion and a carrot as well. I'm going to ferment a carrot. I've taken some of the outside leaves off, and you'll see why later, because I'm going to use them in the top of jars to force the content down into the jar. And you do that by just cutting a little bit there, and then it peels away easy. If you tear from the other end of the cabbage, it tends to tear the leaf. So here we have a head of cabbage and a good strong knife, and I'm going to stand it on its little axis there. And do mind your fingers, because you will need those later. And that's good. Now, what else do we have? Well, we have, this is a strong cabbage. We also have some water. And I'm going to use some black pepper as well in the bottom of the fermenting jar. I've got salt, and that is Celtic salt. Celtic salt is very good to use for this. I particularly like Celtic sea salt. Now you can see here we've split it here, and I'm just going to take out that inside part so it's easier to manage. And also, I haven't had my dinner yet. So we've got them good sizes to go in the shredder, and I've got it on a coarse shredding because I want some texture to it when it's in the jar. I don't want it like sauerkraut, where it's quite small shredding. So you can use all sorts of vegetables for fermenting. Whatever you've got and whatever you want to use is quite good. Does the job for you. Perfect. Of course, you can chop it on the board if you don't have a shredder. Do mind your fingers, you will need them later. So I'm going to talk about soaking it. Now, I've got a glass bowl here so you can easily see it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak it for about 2 hours in a salt solution with some of the sea salt. And always keep the label from your salt and put it in the jar. So maybe a bit more than that. Lots of people are afraid of salt. There's been a lot of talk around blood pressure and salt, but the fact of the matter is it's a wonderful medium. And unless you're piling it on your food all the time as a condiment, then it's really okay to put it in things. So, I'm adding an onion that I've chopped by hand. A red onion, since I've got red cabbage. You'll find that if vegetables have strong colours, all the colour will come out in the fermentation. Also, you have to be a bit careful. I've seen a lot of people adding garlic to their fermentation, and the problem with that is garlic is a bacterial static, it's a bacterial side. So really it quells the growth of your bacteria. This red cabbage, onions and carrots have now been soaking for 2 hours in the salt water, the Celtic salt water. So it's ready to go in the jar. Now, if you cut it by hand and it's really, really quite big chunks, then you take it by hand and stuff it in the jar. But because I used the shredder on the food mixer, I actually use a tea strainer because it makes my life so much easier. And I can go through and take pieces all the time and just fill up the jar. And you've got to fill it up and cram it in. This is 1 head of cabbage, a carrot and 1 onion. So how much we're going to get in here, I just don't know. But if you cram it down, you might get it all in. Seems to have been quite a heavy red cabbage. There's a few bits left over, but not enough to really warrant starting another jar. So now I've got a leaf, and I'm going to start pushing down, pushing that leaf in, turning the jar, getting that leaf in to force it down into the jar. I don't want it above the air. I want it down in the jar. And you check the jar every few days to make sure there's enough fluid in it. That's good. Now I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. The fluid is coming up above my fingers, so that's good there. Maybe a little bit more. The leaves, you can throw them away once you've started the jar. But it's just forcing the actual fermented food that you're eating down into the jar. And if there's any fungus or white stuff on the top when you open the jar, then you just throw that away. Now, here we are, and I'm just going to top the fluid up there so it goes right to the top of the jar. And if when you check it every few days, the fluid has come down lower, you add a little bit of fluid. So that's good there. If I just press there, it's right up to the top of the jar. I put the lid on fairly loosely, firm but not tight. Now that will sit on a saucer or a plate or in a bowl for 4 days basically. That's all you need, 4 days, because it's cut quite fine, and in those 4 days lots of air and fluid and smell will come out of there as well, and it will overflow, so you need something underneath it. And after the 4 days you can put it into the refrigerator and you can start to eat it. Be sure when you ferment that you always label your jars. So you put a sticky label on with the date that you made it and what it is. Because after 3 months you don't really want it. When it's been in the fridge for 3 months, it's a bit old. It's time to start making some new stuff. So in 4 days, before it goes in the fridge, that'll be ready to eat some. And it'll be lovely, just a little bit, couple of tablespoons on the side of your plate with the meal. Gives you all the probiotics you need. Happy fermenting! See you later!